Welcome back to another LoveSoul Movement podcast. We are going on episode 3 of the Strength in Women series. And today we have Tam LeBlanc. Hi. Tam is coined as the Enlightened Auntie. That's her tarot company. And I love the bio, so I have to read it word for word.
Okay.
Tam is a witch and has been reading tarot since 2003. This year, she created the On-the-Go Tarot deck and the Enlightened Auntie's Everyday Lenormand and 3 oracles, all available on her website. I actually have them because I couldn't go without having all, and I have them sitting here. So you guys really should go look at these. It's awesome too. So if you have small hands like I do, this is like a perfect deck for you.
Yeah, they're poker size. They're poker size, so they're small and they're meant to be compact for a reason.
Yeah, and you can just take them everywhere, and they're really awesome. And there are some that are just super tough love, and then there are others that aren't so tough love for those people that aren't really big on the cursing. So welcome, Tam.
Hi.
Thanks for being here.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
So as you know, the Strength in Women series that we're talking stories of women that have really overcome a lot of stuff to get to where they are today. And you are no exception to that rule. So I'd love to hear your story and your background and where you came from and how you landed in the Enlightened Auntie tarot company.
Yeah.
Okay. You can start anywhere you want. You don't have to start from your birth.
So basically, I've been loosely interested in astrology since childhood. My grandmother, my maternal grandmother, introduced me to Chinese astrology. My grandmother's Chinese. I'm half Chinese, so my grandmother introduced me to Chinese astrology and talked a lot about it. We'd read the newspaper, the horoscopes every day. And then when I got a little bit older, I was going to the liquor store and buying those little scrolls. Do you remember those? The little zodiac scrolls. And I would tape them on the wall next to my side of the bed, and I'd read them every day like I was obsessed. Fast forward, got into college at 17. Had a boyfriend that worked in a bookstore, which worked out really great because I utilized the hell out of the discount and bought all of my first astrology books.
Oh, nice.
And I still have them. They're all still in my library.
That's cool.
And over the years, I didn't start off being like spiritual. I grew up Catholic. I was raised Catholic, went to Catholic schools. But it never really resonated for me.
What was Catholic school like?
I hated it.
I thought so.
I hated Catholic school.
I've never actually had a conversation and asked what Catholic school really was like. You just see it in the movies.
Yeah, for me, I think the reason why it was so bad for me is because I came into the Catholic school setting after being in a public school setting.
Oh, yeah.
So having to wear uniforms, and I hated the uniforms. I hated having to dress like everybody else. I hated being, having to catch a bus across town to a school like in LA. I lived, in a suburb. So I had to catch a bus into town, and the school was predominantly Black. I was here, a little high yellow mixed kid that just kind of stood out like a sore thumb. I was new. It was weird. And because I was in there as a Catholic student, had to learn quickly all of these Catholic things that I didn't know anything about, because my mother and I it wasn't a thing growing up like that. So
were you baptized Catholic?
I was baptized Catholic, but I didn't I hadn't really seen the inside of a Catholic church until I got to the 7th grade.
Oh, wow.
So, and so I started high school. I went to a Catholic high school. That totally sucked. But I was always the weird kid. And, I guess I just kind of embrace the weirdness.
Yeah.
And then as you get older, then the weird is a little bit more apparent. When I started getting into astrology more. I was only interested in like, sun sign astrology, because that's what, that's what
Yeah,
they're
that
taught.
was the big way.
That's
Yeah,
the
to
big
get it
way,
out.
sun, like
Mhm.
sun signs. I have that book, and I've got notes written
Oh,
in all over the book,
that's
inside.
hilarious. Love that.
But that was the thing. And so, fast forward, get married at 25 and have my son at 28, Saturn return. And it was during my Saturn return that I kind of leaned into spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a natural, I want to say natural progression. I don't even know where it came from. I just kind of
You are not the first person to say that to me, for sure.
I fell into it. And
Yeah.
I came across a book by Phyllis Karat, Book of Shadows, I believe.
Ooh.
I think I have a couple of her books. And reading her story as she evolved into Wicca, it was profound, because everything in her story, it made sense to me. Like it clicked. It made so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it made sense to me why I always questioned Catholicism, because it didn't make sense to me. But what she was saying totally made sense. The things that she highlighted in the Bible that were like completely contradictory to, the ways that I was being taught. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like I've got highlight notes in all of her books, because I'm like, damn, I was taught this, but hold on.
So you were being open to new perspectives.
Yeah. And I was like, whoa, this makes more sense.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking now, past life type stuff, past life, anything. I have this really weird draw to all things Norse and Nordic.
So interesting.
Chad, I don't know who I was in the past life, but
that's very interesting.
That's kind of how I like got into runes. Like I started reading. I've been reading since 2003, but I started with runes because tarot was very intimidating to me. I mean, it's a lot of cards.
I didn't know that you read runes.
It's a lot. Yeah, I started off with runes, and it's funny because I've even made my own set of runes, and I don't even use them anymore. Which I should probably go back to them, because I haven't used them in a while.
That's amazing.
But I started off with runes just because it made sense to me. And then I loosely dabbled in tarot, like I would read for friends or whatever. I didn't actually start charging people for readings until like 2018.
Wow.
Because I felt very strongly about using a gift for pay. Like the for profit just sounded, it was weird for me, because I had a job. So like, whatever, it wasn't a big deal. Like you want a reading? Sure. Let's slang some cards,
Yeah.
But for me, learning tarot was really intimidating, because it's so many cards, and there's the upright and the reverse and all that. Like I don't read reversals.
I don't either.
I don't read the reversals. If it happens to jump out in reverse, we take it the way it is. But generally, I don't read reversals. And I read the card in its entirety, upside down, sideways, left, right. Like I'm reading the energy as a whole.
Yeah.
Good, bad, ugly. So for me, learning, as I was like, I use my books a lot. I have a gang of tarot books. But for me, it was more about, I wanted to be able to read one without having to use a damn book to help me. But I needed to figure out a way to, I guess, absorb the information. Because it's a lot.
It really is.
A lot of information. Like even when I try to explain it to other people, I'm like, the cards it's a lot of information. Like even when I have like the tarot deck that I created, the imagery is based on the way that I interpret the card.
Right.
And so even now, like I can look at the deck that I created. I created the art, but I can see things in the picture sometimes that I didn't recognize when I first created the picture. And now I see it and I'm like, oh, what is that? That's different.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's.
But it's true. Like the pictures on the tarot decks, and I'm the same way, because I read the energy of the card, the energy of the picture, the things that are going on in the picture. And it's so interesting because even as we move into the Jupiter and Pisces thing, I don't know if you remember what happened earlier this year, but it was kind of a clusterfuck. All the fake spiritualists, all the fake readers, all of that stuff coming out.
Right.
But also on top of that, there's all of this, what's the word everybody's using, where they're saying that like this is the only way that you can read tarot, or this is gatekeeping. Gatekeeping. Yes. So, and that's I even read a tweet this morning, and it doesn't bother me anymore. I just kind of keep going, or I'll mute the person or whatever. But they're like, this is the exact way that you need to read a tarot card. And I was like, okay, first, that's not the way that works. And then but see, people get angry when you don't do it the traditional, but this is the traditional way that you're supposed to read. And I think that a lot of the
card is a tool. Come on,
the art of it, right? The art of it is being lost in the gatekeeping. Right. You know,
but you know what? I find that I really only find that culture on Twitter. I feel like the Twitter's a whole different. But that's kind of, you know what? I'm not going to slam Twitter because that's where Enlightened Auntie was born.
Maybe not like by the hand that feeds you, but still.
Before I started, like I was reading for my friends and stuff, and then I was blogging in 2004, 2005, blogged for a few years, and in hindsight, I didn't realize. Like I get it now. Like I was totally going through some type of healing, like massive healing phase. Mm-hmm. And I had Twitter. I think my Twitter account says 2007, established in 2007. But I didn't know how to use it, so I didn't really use it.
Yeah.
And then in 2019, like my awakening happened in 2018, or the last major one.
What was that like for you? What was your awakening like?
Shit. It was shit. Like it was shit. It was 2018.
Like I'm curious what your husband thought.
Oh girl, he thought I was losing my fucking mind. He's a patient man. That's all I gotta say.
Because I was not in a relationship when I was going through my awakening. So
all kudos to this man. He is most patient. 2018 was really hard. I woke up one day and I was just sad.
Yeah.
Like I quit my job in 2017, at the end of 2017. I've been in finance for, 25 years or whatever. And the last corporate job I had, I was working for a manufacturer, a furniture manufacturer, and we were relocating and I didn't want to go with them and they didn't want to make concessions. And I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. And so I quit my job. My husband probably thought I was crazy. I decided to piggyback on the new California 420 laws. And I'm an artist. So I decided to open up like a puff and paint like situation. Nice. Hence 3P artistry. The 3P stand for puff, pass, paint.
Nice.
And
can we open that back up?
So initially started with that. And it's crazy because like I literally launched the business at the onset of my awakening. Like the first few parties that I hosted, I was having like a mental breakdown at each party. It was bad. It was so bad. I cried like every day for 3 months. It was so bad. But I was going through something emotionally and I did not know what it was. And I couldn't identify the source. I just knew I was unhappy, profoundly unhappy. And even when my husband would ask me, like, what's like, there's nothing different about our life before you were unhappy to now. Like, and it's not that the life was different, it was me. Like, I was unhappy.
Yeah. And that's a perfect example for everybody that's going through that and thinking they need to change their outer world to make it better.
I did. It was not, I knew there was nothing external to me. I mean, it really wasn't. It was me. I was profoundly unhappy. Grabbed my daughter, packed up, moved to my mom's for a little bit. And the isolation, I needed it.
Yeah.
I needed it. I needed, as much as I hated to be, you know, like, it was a lot. Like, it was a lot for the family. It was a lot of my kids. It was a lot of my husband. And the thing for me is I just needed to break down whatever was going on with me emotionally. I had been on antidepressants since 2007 and 2006. Yeah, I had been on antidepressants since 2006. And I began to feel like I was using the meds as a crutch.
Yeah.
To not deal with whatever I was masking with medication. And so I decided to wean myself off.
I've been there.
And so I started taking the pills like every other day. And then I ramped down to, you know, every 2 days. Because initially I was taking 2 pills. So I ramped down from 2 pills to 1 pill every other day. And the withdrawal was a bitch.
Yeah. I slept a lot.
I probably smoked more weed than I have ever smoked in my entire life. I was like 5 blunts a day. Like, I was smoked out all day long because I needed it to kind of counteract the feeling of withdrawal. Because literally that withdrawal made me feel like jumping out of a window. Like, I was all over the place. And I slept a lot and saw synchronicities a lot.
Oh yeah.
A lot. Like, it was a lot. And that's when I just, like, little things started happening. My dad died. And then, you know, there was a whole bunch of unpacking of boxes at that point with his death. And it was like kind of like an aha thing. I got on Twitter, posted about I think it's a pin tweet actually.
The 20-something pin.
Yeah, it's like, hold on, where is it?
I love that.
Where is it? Oh yeah, it says, for my 20-something-year-old followers, stop stressing about your love life, forgive your parents, wait to have children, finish your education, love yourself the way you've been loving those deadbeat ass connections, learn to live in gratitude and watch your life change. I posted that January 16th of 2020. When I posted this tweet, I only had, at the time, I think I had like 328 followers. Today I have 25.8 thousand followers. Nice. And Enlightened Auntie was kind of born from this tweet, because I find that the information or the tweets, the things that I talk about on Twitter, are really, they're kind of internal. There's kind of like internal conversations that I'm having with myself. Little reminders to my inner child, little reminders to teenage Tam. And I realized that I am also talking to a whole generation of children. These are kids, as far as I'm concerned.
Me too.
I'm about to turn 50. So these are children for me. Sorry, kids.
I'm in my mid 40s. I don't look at 20-year-olds like they're adults yet.
And somebody was like, wow, you really, you know, like you talk to us like, you know, you come off like this auntie, like, and it was kind of cute. And I thought about it and I was like, oh, yeah. Okay. I was like, Enlightened Auntie. I like that. And it's stuck. And so now it's funny because people do come to me and they approach me and they you know, call me auntie. And it's, you know, initially it was kind of weird. When my husband does it, that's really weird. But but when people say that to me, I realize that it is a term of endearment. It is, you know, I realize that I've had clients tell me that they felt more love from me than they have gotten from their own families.
Right.
And I understand that because we've all lived with that at some point in our lives where we didn't feel like we were getting the love, the nurturing,
love and support and safety,
you know. And so I try to, I guess, my approach with my clients, the people that I, you know, interact with on Twitter, my approach is very much the same that I do with my own children. You know, I am literally the empress. Like, I am the gentle nurturer. I want to love on everybody. You know, I want you to shine the best and shiniest that you could possibly be. And I'm going to be your cheerleader, but I'm also going to pull your collar when I see you on some fuck shit.
Right.
Because that's what I do. You know, if I see that you're not doing what you're, I mean, I'm holding you accountable. You know, I'm telling you, I love you because you're deserving of that.
And people don't like to be held accountable.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I love you because, you know, you're deserving of that. But I'm also telling you your shit stinks because you're not handling your business. And you know, and I feel like it's funny because I have some clients that come to me, I don't know, sometimes expecting me to be harsh. Like, you know, that's kind of Mercury and Aries. That's kind of my personality. Because I'm going to give it to you straight, but they think, I don't know, I guess they expect sometimes in a reading that I'm just going to just drag them through the mud. And it's not so much that. I'm just going to tell you what it is, but I'm telling you in such a way that I'm breaking it so that you understand. I'm breaking it down so that you also feel nurtured and cared for through the process. You're going through some shit. I get it. We've all been there. We've all gone through something. I'm trying to help you shift your perspective so that you can see your way out of it. Because 9 times out of 10, when you're in it, you don't see nothing but the chaos. You know, I'm trying to be the light to help you get your way out of that. So, you know, Enlightened Auntie became its own little force. So I decided,
I think that it's like a nice little warm corner of the world that you've created, honestly, because it's like there aren't very many places where people can go to where they actually feel safe these days. Online, physically, it doesn't matter. And when you don't feel safe, like we, you know, just the conversations that we were having before we hit record, you know, growing up, when you don't feel safe, you want to find places that are safe for you.
Right.
And I think that,
And unfortunately, a lot of times when people, and that's the thing, people take advantage of folks when they're in those low places, those people. And so I try to literally shine as bright as I can so that I can be some kind of beacon. Like that's my calling. I get it. I finally kind of come to the realization that because my demographic is, they range between 20 and 35, the bulk of the people that are like following me or interacting with me. And I understand that age demographic because I've already lived it. And I have children, you know, I've got adult children. So it's like, I'm guiding from the perspective of not just a parent, but I've already lived it. So I'm, you know, I've made the mistakes. I've done all the things, you know. I kind of also get now that I understand why I'm called to do what I'm doing, because I've lived in the station of the karmic toxic masculine. I have lived in the station of the karmic toxic feminine. I am now fully balanced in divine masculine, divine feminine energy. Like, I've lived all of that.
Yeah.
I understand now how I got myself into it.
Yeah.
I understand the moments, like I can look back now and I can see
and put the dots together.
When I started connecting the dots and really seeing how everything was so connected, I was like, damn, wow. It started to make a lot more sense.
And then you find peace. You find so much peace with your past when you can do that.
It was kind of like dealing with my father. Like when I decided that, you know, right before he died, like the week before he died, I went to see him. with full intention of walking in and just telling him to kiss my ass and, you know, go fuck yourself and die. Like I literally had that intention. And when I got there and saw the condition he was in, saw his living conditions, I was like, you're already living your karma.
Yeah.
Why am I mad? And it dawned on me in that moment that I had been carrying around all this pain and anger and disappointment. And he was just incapable of being what I needed. It had nothing to do with who he was. I mean, you know, he is who he is. He was going to be who he was going to be.
Right.
He just was incapable. It didn't mean he loved me any less. He just really didn't know how to love me.
Yeah.
He didn't know what to do with that.
He wasn't taught. He wasn't even taught.
Right.
How to do any of that.
I couldn't be mad at that anymore.
Right.
Like instead I was angry at him the whole time. I had a stepfather who stood in his place and was the father that I needed.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
wasn't that so freeing for you in that moment?
In that moment when I realized, I was like, you know what? I forgive you because you're living like this, dude. I'm not that bad off. So
yeah. Well, and he did that to himself. He's living like that because he alienated everybody that he loves or loved him ever.
Right.
And that's why he was he had no help. He was in squalor because he
literally body broken down, like all of that. And so, you gotta
feel bad for him. Almost.
I was just like, wow, that's unfortunate, man. You know, sorry to hear that. And then a week later, I get a call from my brother and he's like, oh, we lost him. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And at that point I was free. I literally felt free at that moment because I'm like, I had said everything I needed to say. Nothing. I don't feel any kind of way. I have a picture of him and my children sitting right across from my desk. I see him every day.
Yeah.
I don't feel no kind of way. Like I literally don't feel any kind of way about it.
So what would you tell somebody who because we were talking about the parental things or mothers and we didn't really get into the father side, but I have the same father. Like that story is almost exactly, my dad's still alive, but not any better off than I am for sure.
I think for me, now that I have a better understanding and I've been really working on the whole, generational curse, ancestral karma thing. Like that's been a real big focal point for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it started with looking back at my lineage, looking at the sacrifices that my great-grandparents made to come here. What my great-grandfather initiated when he left China. He initiated a vow of poverty by walking away from his family, walking away from their money so that he can go marry this little poor village girl and bring her to the United States. So they come to the United States and they have 13 children in the 30s.
Wow.
And 40s.
Well, they did that because
Chinese immigrants in California during that time.
But they did that. They had that many kids so that those kids could work for them.
That part.
Yeah. That's why poor families had a whole bunch of kids and that sucks.
Right. So
that's where we came from.
Right. So I look at my grandmother. My grandmother's first marriage was arranged.
Wow.
So she had a high school sweetheart who she later married, who was her second husband. But her first marriage was arranged. Karmic.
Mm-hmm.
Look, now that we understand how those work.
Yeah.
She married my grandfather. They had my mother. My grandmother was mentally ill, schizophrenic, abusive physically. So my mother went to go live with my great grandmother. And then my grandparents split or he left or whatever. She went on to be with my granddaddy. Now my granddad, black man. Now we're talking the 1940s and 50s, a Chinese woman and a black man in Los Angeles, California.
Wow.
Yeah. But their relationship, I want to say that was a third party situation.
Oh yeah.
And then we fast forward to my mother and my birth father. That I feel like that was completely karmic because it wasn't because they loved each other. It was, we'll show you, because they wanted to get married and their parents said no.
Oh yeah. They wanted to get out of the house and stuff.
Yeah. So
yeah, that was my mom too. My mom and my dad, that was the same story.
So,
Crazy.
So then here I come and, I derailed her plans. He didn't know
Yeah.
what the hell, like he wanted a baby, but then when the baby got here, it was like, what do we do with it? And so it just understanding the dynamics and even like growing up wanting just to be like coupled. Like for me, I guess coupling was a thing. It was important. It felt like it was supposed to be important.
It gave you worthiness almost.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I can kind of see, it's funny because I can kind of see now how I spoke up or spoke some toxic shit into my life by saying I wanted my marriage to be just like my parents.
Ooh, yeah.
Like now I can say, yeah, Jesus Christ, don't ever say that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ever say that.
Be careful what you wish for. Yeah.
Because what I saw on the outside wasn't truly what, Jesus Christ, like I spoke that into my life. Words are very powerful, people. Be careful what you wish for.
Yes.
And so now, I mean, on this side of it, I recognize it for what it is. I recognize that it, while it could have been love. Now I understand that whole, the lovers and the devil, two sides of the same coin.
They look exactly the same. They have the same
two
people
sides
on them.
of the same coin.
Yes.
Yes, you have a deep connection. Yes, you love each other, but it's the kind of love where you would kill. Like it's so
the obsession. Yeah.
The obsession, the toxicity, the jealousy, all of that. Like that was, I recognized growing up, like that was, I saw it. I saw my grandparents act it out. I've seen my parents act it out. I've seen it acted out within my own marriage. And so when I recognized it immediately, I was like, that has got to change. We can't do that anymore. Like literally, we can't do that anymore. And so the whole shifting of paradigm and unlearning, the unlearning part has been, it's been huge. And I think just because I've got all these damn Gemini placements, my mind is super open. So I see every side, all the time. I'm always trying to get other people to see all the other sides with me because there are so many possibilities, not just this one.
Right.
There's a gang of possibilities. So keep yourself open to them.
Right.
And for the most part, most people don't operate that way. So
and everybody thinks that like the worst possible thing is going to happen. That's where they go, right? That's where everybody always goes to the worst possible thing because then they're safe. Like if the worst possible things happens, at least they were ready for it. And I'm like, but that's how you're going to manifest the worst possible thing happening is by being ready for the worst possible thing to happen.
Right. And now I'm it has taken me a lot to get into that space of surrender. And it's hard for me to explain it to people. Like when I tell you to just surrender and you're like, what do I do? Yeah. I'm like, I can't tell you how. I can only tell you like I did it, but it was like talking myself into it over and over and in every moment, reminding myself, what is it that I want? What is it like in my mind's eye, see it all the time, what I want. And for the first time in my life, at age 49 and 3/4, I can say I have everything I've ever wanted, like ever.
That's awesome.
And it proved to me just like this passing Christmas, we didn't put a Christmas tree up, like we decorated the outside of the house just for the neighborhood, but it didn't look very holiday-like in my house. I cooked breakfast and lunch. We had Jack in the Box for dinner. Like it was the most relaxed Christmas I've ever had in my entire life. And I loved it because
I just got goosebumps all over.
I loved it because we didn't do anything. Like my kids, like my husband was kind of like shocked because the kids didn't ask for anything. Why? Because they're comfortable. They have everything they need. We have everything we need. We don't need anything. And I mean, nothing I can't get myself. So I'm like, we're good.
Yeah. Right.
And my husband was like, and for him, I think also for him, it was kind of like, it was a good feeling that we provide a good life for ourselves, for our children, so that we can just enjoy the fruits of our labor. So all we did was lay up in the bed and watch Netflix all day and just hang out. And
that's awesome.
I'm like, we got out of that whole, congregate with family and get all dressed up and, you know, get dressed up to be in my own house. I ain't doing all of that. Like, I never understood that. So for me, like, this was the most ideal holiday, you know.
That's awesome.
And I mean, God, I would love to do this over and over again, but my husband is now convinced that we have to take the helm of tradition. And I'm like, maybe we should come up with new traditions.
I think I was just about to say that, because he's also mixed, Black and Asian, correct? He's the Philippines Asian. Okay. I just wanted to get it straight. So I wasn't, but that's the thing is like, but going back into the Asian culture, those are the traditions that kept you guys restricted. So I was going to, new traditions.
It's like the family, like I mean, and I am down with my family like that, you know, but, but, just based on understanding my own boundaries, and I've kind of been exercising these since maybe like 2016 when I started kind of like trimming away the fat, like trimming away the people that I know they're just like whatever, just hanging on for whatever, and realizing that even though I have a very large family on my mother's side. I've not like one family, like on my father's side, we're not very close, but I've got family on both sides, and it's like I'm not. Again, I've always been the weird one. I'm
the black sheep of the family.
I'm the different one. Even in my Chinese family, I'm the only one that's half Black. So I was even different, you know, even as a child, like I was always the different one. And so I'm not on that whole, you know, because we're related, we got to be, you know, buddies, breaking bread and hanging out. And it's not to say that I'm not, again, it's not because I don't love my family. It's just that
you just don't need it. It's not something that
I don't need it. Yeah. I don't need it.
And that's okay. And it's so funny because it's even okay to admit that. Like,
I just don't need it. I'm perfectly content. I mean, maybe, you know, my husband probably thinks it's weird because I don't mind the isolation. I've finally gotten comfortable with it. I grew up as an only child. So as an only child, my ass was alone all the time. You know, my mom was either going to school at night or doing some kind of philanthropy, something somewhere else. And so I was home by myself a lot, and I was a latchkey kid. So, I mean, being alone, not a big deal. Now that my kids are teens, my two youngest kids are teens, they stay in their room all day.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of like the tough years when they were little and I had to really be the engaged mom and hands-on, and everything was, we're all sitting together, we're all watching cartoons, and we're all playing with toys, and we're all dressing up as princesses, like all of that stuff. Like, I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
No. I don't do it anymore. So, you know, I let my kids be autonomous, go do whatever you want to do, because I'm not about to sit here and make you stare at me. And we're just
that conscious parenting thing, after you have to unlearn, you have to reparent yourself and unlearn, and at the same time be very aware of any kind of triggering that you're getting. And then it's like, not because I know for myself, I held on to my mother's emotions my entire life. Like my whole life, I was taking care of her emotions. And when I was connecting my dots from the past, I noticed that I did that to my older two. My oldest two are 20 and 18. And I noticed I did that to the older two, but my youngest, who's 8, he gets the conscious, aware, awakened.
Right.
And so, and I'm still mothering through that as well with my older two. But I mean, I have conversations with them where I'm like, you have to understand where I came from, and that that's not who I am anymore. And they know that as well.
Right.
But it's
because our two oldest have a different experience. They had a different experience.
They had a different mom.
And I became a step parent at like 23, 24. So, you know, I was really young and I had no experience with children. I was going solely off of the information that my mother was telling me about my own childhood. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And so you know, my stepson and I had a really tough time for a really long time. But I also realize in hindsight now that I think some of it largely was due to kind of the way that step parenthood was presented to me.
Oh yeah.
As a child, like not that my stepdad treated me any kind of different, but my mother definitely treated my stepbrother and sister differently than, you know, whatever.
Oh wow.
So that was, you know, I think that shaped a lot of what I did. And then also understanding, like I was trying to like be a mom, or at least be a facilitator to like his mother and the boy, like trying to fit in into, you know, into this like dynamic, because I'm the new guy. So I was trying to navigate that. So he got a much different parent. And even with my oldest son, he's 21 now, much different parent, much more strict, much more, you know, because that's the way that we were raised. That's the way that we were taught. It was, you know, I remember when my stepson was like 4 or 5, my mother and I took him shopping, and I asked if we were going to go get lunch, and my mother thought it was really weird for me to ask him what did he want to eat. She thought it was the strangest, like, because that's not the way I was raised. It was like, you eat what I give you.
Right.
Like, no questions asked. You just eat it.
Yeah.
And I hated that, by the way. Like, I hated that approach, by the way. So I don't do that with my kids. I never have. Like, I'm going to give you an option. I'm going to give you like 3. Pick one of the 3.
Yeah.
Don't say nothing that's not on this list. Pick one of the 3, because I know at least one of those 3 is something that you chose and you will eat it. Because if I spend my money on something that you won't eat, I'm going to be pissed off. And I know that. So, you know, let's do it smart. And I remember my mother's reaction was like, well, like,
why would you give your kid choices?
Yeah, she was like, why would you do that? She was like, he's going to eat what you give him. I was like,
I feel like our parents didn't understand that children are also humans.
Hey, yeah.
With brains and choice and
like, no,
ideas.
I am not about to spend my money and have this kid, you know, tell me he's not going to eat the food, and then I'm going to be mad. Like, why am I going to do that to myself? Why am I going to do that to him? Like, no, I'm going to give him an option. And so I made sure, like, even with when my first son came, I gave my kids options. You know, my mom thinks it's crazy that all 3 of my kids eat differently. Oh, so my oldest, he will eat anything. You put any kind of food in front of him, he will eat it, no questions asked. Our youngest son is 17. He has been kind of a pseudo vegetarian for many years now. Like, he's just now starting to put meat into his diet. And then my daughter won't touch anything that's green. Like, if she don't like colors, if it's she's very meat and potatoes. If it's got orange or red or green or yellow, it's coming off the plate. It's getting straight to the side. That's
very specific.
Yes, it is. But they all, and
the super Virgo.
Yes, but I have, as their mother, have catered to their different dietary needs. Yeah. Because I want to make sure everybody's happy.
And they're all 3 different humans.
Yes. But then what happened was, and then my husband is a whole different beast, because we've got meal planning and all this other stuff. So somewhere in that mix, I was losing myself, because then I began to hate that process. And then it was like, fuck it, y'all go eat whatever the hell I give you. Instead of, you know, where I would carefully do my daughter's plate by taking out the vegetables, I'm like, fuck it, you gonna take these vegetables out yourself. It was a process though. Like I was literally an unlearning process where I had to kind of peel back. I went without a cell phone for like a year, a little over a year. And it was during the time that I opened my business. So imagine that I ran a business without a cell phone.
Girl, I am impressed.
I made it work because 90% of the time I was on Wi-Fi. And so I had an iPhone. Most people could, you know, connect with me. My best friend has an Android. So I had Android at the time. So she would always we'd messenger each other and call each other through Messenger. So there were ways to connect with people. You just couldn't get me when you wanted me. Yeah. That was the key. Yeah. I needed that disconnect. So during that whole 2018, most of 2019, I didn't have a phone. So people couldn't just, you know, like if I left the house, When you coming back? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like the 90s.
Right. Like I don't know. Like because in part
the
of
80s.
that was to detach in a way where it was healthy for all of us, myself, my husband, my children, so that codependency that we have towards having a cell phone and being able to instantly connect. Y'all got to learn how to rely on yourselves and not constantly just rely on mom having the answer for everything.
Yeah.
I need y'all to peel back a little bit.
But the fact that you recognize that you had created monsters and then you healed it. That's the way to say it. It wasn't even that you fixed anything. You healed.
I had to, because if I didn't, I was going to kill myself. Like literally, like I was running myself thin. And even at the time when I stopped working, my mother had just started going through dialysis. And so I would leave my house in the morning, go to her house, change out her dialysis bags, go to work, leave work, go to her house, pick her up, take her to the dialysis center, go back to work. When she finished dialysis, go pick her up, take her home, and then go back to work.
Wow.
And then make one more stop to her house before I went home. And then when I got home, I had to feed my family.
Wow. Yeah.
I did that for a minute. And by the time it was all said and done, like I was spun. I'm trying to be, trying to be there for my mom. I have a whole family of my own, and there was nothing left for me. And I was giving the rest to work. There was nothing left for me. And nobody, I don't know if they got it, understood it, cared, whatever.
Well, but that's what
I was going through. Like literally,
yeah.
That's what I was going through. And it was hard and it was killing me. So when I stopped working and decided, okay, I'm going to start my own business, which kind of just turned into something different. I started teaching, but it evolved in such a way. Like, I'm an artist. I've always been an artist. I've been drawing pretty much my whole life, but I also collect tarot decks. I probably have like 100 all over my house.
Yeah.
But I realized the reason why I collect them is because I like the imagery. And that's what inspired me to do my decks, because I understand that I get a lot from the imagery. And so I'm an artist. What other way for me to get my art into other people's hands than to create something that they can use?
Yeah.
And that's how the decks were created. So it was and at that point I was kind of itching for something else. Like, I enjoy tarot, but I enjoy helping people more. Less tarot, more talk, more. I rather engage with them so that to help them understand where they're going and what's going on in their lives and how to navigate it. So now, like, I don't ask zodiac information for readings, but I do, if I am talking to somebody live, I do ask them how old they are so that I can kind of gauge how my advice goes. Because if you haven't had your Saturn return yet, there ain't no point in even going down that road.
Right.
This is the set of challenges you're going to have in your early 20s.
Yeah.
If you're post Saturn return, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
But you're still going to evolve more from your Saturn return into your 40s. You're still going to grow and evolve and change a little bit more. Oh
yeah. Your Saturn return is just showing you what it is that you need to do in order to become a grown-up. And the following years after your Saturn return, that's where you implement it.
Right.
And if you don't implement it, then it's going to be really hard to.
Right. I tried not to, I'm like, because the first one was a hot ass mess. And so I would like to think that when the second one comes rolling around, I'll be a little bit more prepared for it.
I think it really is. It's more of like planning for the last part of your life.
Right.
It's, it's kind of, that's like the milestone.
I've been thinking about it. I'm like, not overly thinking. I've actually looked up a couple of videos on it. And it's funny because I've seen some videos on Saturn return and they're just so delusional.
Oh yeah.
Like, I've seen some Saturn return videos and the people they're like smiling and making it sound like, they're talking about the transit and what it could do, but they're making it sound very fairy tale like. And I'm like,
oh yeah,
y'all are crazy. My Saturn return pretty much shred my life and turned it inside out. Like,
mine did too.
I don't know what y'all
Well, and it's really funny. If I would have known that that was my Saturn return, I probably wouldn't done half the stuff I did, because I got divorced during my Saturn return, and then I met my second husband during my Saturn return.
Hey, same here. Divorced my husband and remarried him.
Yep. Well, I didn't remarry him. I didn't remarry the second. I just met him. I waited 4 years. Still didn't work.
Look, divorced and remarried during Saturn return.
And it's funny because and it's so great because the generation now that just had their Saturn return or they're in it, nobody wants to get married anymore. And I'm like, good.
I know. It's the only difference is my sister's going through hers right now. The only difference is she really wants a baby.
Yeah.
And that one's not happening right now, but for the most part, everybody that's going through theirs right now, they're so not thinking about.
Well, and it's because of the way that relationships have been portrayed. Right. And this is definitely something I wanted to talk to you about, because I mean, you're a veteran of being in a relationship where you guys have had your ups and downs. You went through your awakening during your marriage. I couldn't even imagine, because I know what kind of a hot mess I am. And God bless the fact that Henry has been around for a year. He's amazing. So
I would say my husband is incredibly patient. And I think for him, because we talk about it a lot, like he has adapted, I guess, learned to pivot and adapt as I pivot, as the Gemini in me starts to spin.
Mm-hmm.
And he recognizes that there's something that has shifted. He will investigate to figure out what the shift is. This is love. He will figure out what that shift, like he'll witness, like he's very, I mean,
he watches. What's his rising sign? You don't know?
I don't know.
I want to look at both of your charts someday.
I don't have his exact time of birth either.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the thing. But he's very God, he's very patient. But he pays attention to the things that I'm going through. And so he reads a lot. See,
I want to say that he's like a Gemini rising or a Virgo rising. So if
he feels like there's something that, if he kind of senses something, he'll do research. He'll watch videos. He'll read a book. He'll read blogs. He reads a lot. Yeah. And so with every shift that I went through, he read up on it.
That's awesome.
So that he could understand what I was going through, how to support me, how to be, how to kind of counteract some of this, frenetic energy that I was going through. Mm-hmm. He checks in with me often. I think now that I've fully opened up, which was really hard, that, learning how to open up and
get soft,
the vulnerability, like learning how to kind of learning how to drop the armor.
Yes.
Oh my God. Learning how to drop the armor was a really tough process.
I'm still kind of learning how to drop
it. Yeah. So I have to, even there's times where I feel like when conversations are getting like super tense or I'm like feeling triggered, I have to pause, breathe, go through my exercises in a flash, to kind of stay really, stay within myself so that I can, communicate and be open. I just keep telling myself, like, this is what you want. You have to communicate. You have to speak up. You have to say how you feel. You have to be honest. Like, these are all the things. And I am constantly just like reminding myself, you have to. So now that I show up in a more authentic way, I think just because I don't care how it's perceived anymore, whatever.
You're either gonna love me or you're gonna hate me, and that's not my problem.
Right. And the fact that this man has been so patient all of this time and continues to love me unconditionally, it was all that was all the evidence I needed. Not that I wasn't aware, but it was like it was shrouded with so much
all the crap,
calcified shit.
Yes.
It was so much other stuff that was blinding me from what I really had.
Amen.
And when I really sat down and like took a full assessment of it, I was like, oh shit, wait a minute. What am I doing?
But what I love about your story, and I hope that I can have that same story someday. But what I love about your story is that it does give the kids these days hope that there are people out there that will fight with you.
I try to let them know, like, you know what? Granted, I met my husband when I was 23 years old. But when I met him at a time where intentionally I told myself, anybody I meet from this time forward, I need to consider them for marriage, because at that, you know, our generation at that time.
Oh yeah.
Most people got married and had babies right out of high school.
Oh yeah. I already had 2 babies by 23.
Right. And so I was like, so for me, you know, being 23 and not having a husband and not having a partner or anything, like, I didn't want to be an old maid at 23.
Yes.
Right? So
the truth.
I knew at that point, anybody that, you know, entered into my life, I didn't realize that I was actively manifesting at that moment. I did not realize that, but I said it very intentionally. Whoever comes into my life at this point, I got to look at them as marriage material. And if they are not it, they got to go.
They got to go. Yeah.
And 6 months from the time literally 6 months to the day I said it, my husband walked into my job looking for a job. And I never would have imagined that one encounter would turn into all of this.
Yeah.
That we've built a life, a family. And yeah, we've had tough times, but our love is what kept us together, you know, and wanting to keep our family together and wanting to, you know, be whole and be happy. Like literally, we are good.
Right.
We are good. Knock on wood. We are good.
Do you feel like these days that people give up on other people too easily? And maybe that if they stayed and let their ego go a little bit?
I think so. I think people have sometimes unrealistic expectations of what a relationship is supposed to provide.
Oh, I think Hollywood did a really good job of that.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Let's not talk about the Disney videos.
Let's not do that.
You know, that fairy tale shit, you know, people don't tell you.
Yeah, I knew I wasn't a princess when I was little, because when I'd watch those Disney movies, I'd be like, this is not my life. I know I'm not a princess.
No. And the thing is that I remember one thing that my mom used to tell me a lot growing up, and it was like, whoever you end up with, like, you want them to be your friend. You should be friends first. Like, why would you give yourself to somebody who you don't even want to be friends with? Right. And so for that, I recognized where there were relationships that I had been in or guys that I had dated that I knew I wasn't going to be friends. Like, we couldn't be friends like that. But my husband and I are like the same person. He's just a man. Yeah. He's just a man. We're like the same person. But he literally picks, it's like we are very yin and yang. He like for all of my weaknesses, those are his strengths and vice versa. Yeah. Very complementary to one another, our personalities, the way that we operate and the way that we, you know, function as a unit. It is possible. I think if people just drop their idea of, you know, there's that whole modern woman thing where, you know, I can do it on my own. Yeah. Okay. And then, you know, then the girls who are like, you know, if he can't do this, that for me, then I don't want him. But like, what are you bringing to the table?
Right. Like, I feel like that whole 70s feminist movement that happened kind of went overboard, and we were stuck in the middle of having to be that kind of woman. And now it's not like that anymore.
Right. And the thing is too, and also too, is because we're not, you know, even like with my younger children, it's like, I'm not raising them in survival mode because we're not going into that paradigm. No. I think things will shift, but we're not going to be in that survival mode anymore. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that I really want to, like, when I do collective readings or when I have collective talks on my channel or anything like that, there's a lot of recognition that I'm trying to get people out of survival mode, and it's not that I think that there's like any, like, I don't go into the politics of anything, and I don't listen to the political agenda, and I don't do all of that. But I do know that the media and everything that we've grown up with, that has been the fear of survival mode. Right. And that's, I don't know how, you know, generation after generation after generation, it just gets worse. But yeah, I think that that's one of the biggest things is survival mode is what kills us. We literally are hustling and pushing the clock and making sure that we can go that extra mile. And I even still see myself doing it sometimes. Getting close to having to pay a certain bill, and I'm like, okay, what can I sell?
Yeah,
what reading do I have at hand that I can just pop out there?
I'm trying to get out of that mode. I don't know. I think I watched, it might have been your Taurus reading. I think you said something in it. It was like something about being more present. Like instead of being so future focused on what's going on or what's coming or inserting myself into the next thing, to just kind of be. Pause and wait to see what this moment is giving you first. Yeah. So I'm kind of like, and so right now I'm in that. I'm trying to. And that is for me, that was the easiest way to get out of survival mode, was to keep, and Henry reminds me all the time. He's like, you know, when we're getting to that point to where I'm starting to get stressed out, he can tell. And he's like, but you got to come back into this moment where this is the moment that matters, whatever you're doing right now. And I know you, with all that mutable energy, you're like, but I could do this, but I could do that, but I could do this. I'm like, hold on, let me show you my magic. You don't have to do magic. On the inside, I feel very stretched right now. I'm not though. I'm literally not. But in the inside, there's a little me running around in circles going, what do I do? What do I do? What are you doing? I feel like I should be doing something, but I have no idea what. Yeah. So I'm kind of taking that as a signal, just focus on what's going on around the house, you know, clean here, wipe that, wash this, you know, find something else to get into and it'll just come to you. Don't worry about it. So that's kind of the mode that I've been in literally since Christmas, because I feel very, I don't want to say like in the flow. That seems really cheesy, but I say that it's cheesy all the time. I'm like, I just don't know. I have no other words for it because I don't know. You're not forcing anything. I'm just kind of being, I'm like, whatever, like it is what it is. Yeah. I have noticed like the manifestation things have been picking up really quickly, really weird. Like so this is new for me. So just kind of being in the receptive mode. Yeah. When you open yourself up like that, that's what I want people to understand, is when you get vulnerable and you take that armor down, you can actually see the things happening. And you're like, yeah, I had that happen last week. And I was like you say words and it appears. And you're like, what I just made that. Yeah. I'm gonna tell you this story. We're gonna put it on this podcast. So I manifested free weed last week. Nice. So my plug was out of town. It was raining like dogs and cats, like it is right now. And I was like, damn, I do not want to go to the dispensary. I don't want to pay the taxes, and I don't want to pay for it. I just don't want to pay for it. And so I placed an order online for them to deliver. That turned into a whole shit show. I placed my order at 6. They close at 10. At 10 o'clock, I hadn't heard anything back. Oh, wow. I am not freaking out, but I'm annoyed. Like at this point, I'm just annoyed. Because I'm like, where are you coming? You're not coming? Like, what the hell? Like now it's 10 o'clock. Like you guys close. Like don't mess with my weed. Right. So I'm pissed off. I post on Twitter, like, yo, I'm so done. I'm like, I did this delivery service, blah, blah, blah. And this guy inboxes me and he's like, how much were you buying? And I was like, $80. He was like, how much were you going to spend? I said, $80. He was like, what's your Venmo? I was like, I sent him my Venmo. He sent me $80. And I was like, he was like, when it stops raining and you have the ability to go get it, I want to get it for you. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Thank you. So, and that was literally the only communication. Like I haven't said shit to this guy. This guy hasn't said shit to me, whatever. He was like, I like your content. Okay, cool. 15 minutes later, I get a text from the delivery service. They're like, your driver is 15 minutes out. And I was like, okay, but I had already taken the cash out of the bank. I had got cash out of the bank or whatever. So the guy comes, he drops it off. He's like $69. I said 80 because that's how much I took out of the bank. So that's what was locked in my head. Yeah. So I grabbed the bag, driver smiling all extra hard. And I was just annoyed. So I didn't even I was just giving my shit so I can go in the house. It's raining. So I go in the house, I open the bag. It's an extra 8. Oh. I was like, yo, did I just manifest free weed and extra money? What the hell? All I could do was laugh. I was like,
That's nice.
I text my best friend. I'm like, yo, I think I just manifested free weed, because I kept saying all day long, I don't want to pay for it. That's all I kept saying. I was like, I just don't want to pay for it.
Yeah.
I don't want to pay for it. I don't want to pay for it. I don't want to
That's
pay
hilarious.
For it. I was like, is that how this shit works? Yeah, I'll be doing this a lot.
Well, and it's really fun when you are conscious that you're doing it and you're just like, dang, look at what I just did. I do that.
God, I was like, wow, who knew?
And what's awesome is that's the stuff that you get to remember when you forget who you are, know, those days that you forget that you're magical, because I know I have those days.
I forget that I'm magical. So
yeah. And it's funny that we are, and I'm just going to say it, we're as good as we are, and we still forget that we're magical. So you got to understand that if, everybody gets that way, everybody goes
when
there.
Something happens and and I see it kind of coming together just the way that my brain put it together, I'm baffled and amazed and all the time. Yeah. I'm in awe all the time. Like when I talk about, the star card, and I'm like, yo, the blessings of the star card, I was like, yo, you get what you want, but it's not going to look like what you think. Yeah. It's going to be so much bigger and so much more and so much better. And when I stand back and really look at what I said I wanted, and to realize, I have it.
Yeah.
All of it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I manifested this. I created it just the way that it is. Like, I'm badass.
Plucked it right out of thin air.
Plucked it right out of thin air and made it exactly the way I wanted it without any real, I don't feel like I put a whole lot of work into it. I just said, this is what I want.
Yeah. I feel like we need to do a manifesting class together.
That would be fun.
We should teach people how to do that.
That would be fun. We could do that, because I think the biggest lesson that folks don't understand is it's the surrender and letting it and letting it go and just letting it go.
And that's the thing is, you didn't, when you knew that you needed to surrender, you couldn't define it. And now you understand. Now you have that.
I don't know how to tell people to surrender. Just got to let go and trust. And it's got to be radical trust. It's got to be.
And it has to be about vulnerability. And like you said, dropping the armor and opening yourself to receive. And all of those things, not just
that is everybody's biggest hurdle right now. That is everybody's biggest hurdle.
Trust. It's because you don't trust. Yeah.
Everybody is so jaded and nobody wants to get hurt, not realizing that once you step over the threshold of that fear,
everything is possible. Everything is possible.
Everything is possible. When you step on the other side of your own fear, when you step outside of yourself and just take that deep breath and take that first step, everything opens up. Everything opens up. It happens in such a miraculous way if you just trust. Like, I don't know how to stress that.
Yeah.
Just trust. Just trust.
Well, and it's interesting because growing up in survival mode, it's very difficult to trust. It's so, and I think that that's where people kind of get themselves stuck, because I'm even thinking about a couple people in my mind that I know that they just have so much manifesting power that they manifest the negative things that happen to them. And if they could pull themselves out of the negative parts, because I know what saved my life was learning how to surrender. What saved my life was learning how to be vulnerable. Before that, nobody could help me. Nobody could come in my space.
There's nothing anybody could do or say that was going to change.
Very sharp edges.
Right. Really sharp edges. Yeah. And so now that I've been able to kind of like drop all of that and release everything and let it go, constantly shedding, letting go, the less I care, and not even like I don't care, but like the less I care about everything, just it is what it is.
Yeah.
I say that it is what it is. It's going to be whatever it's going to be.
And it really is. It's not about not caring about things or people. It's just, it's the outcome, not giving a shit. I'm just allowing things to be however they're going to be. I can't make any changes. I can't do anything about it. So you might as well just enjoy the ride where you're going. Yeah.
You don't like the ride, get off.
You're right. Go do something else.
Go do something else.
Just that simple. And you stop projecting too. You take the anger away, you stop projecting onto other people, you stop making them hold on to your emotions, all of that.
And take accountability for your own actions, your own decisions. And when you own that, nobody can hold that shit over your head. Nobody can, other people's judgment doesn't make any sense, doesn't make any difference. Like, you don't care. And that's kind of where I don't care about what other people think of me. I don't give a shit.
I said that on, I responded to a tweet yesterday. I was like, when my Virgo 12th house realized that nobody actually gave a shit that I failed at something, I was free. I was like, wow, nobody cares. Nobody's looking that hard. At all.
And for me, even if they were looking, I don't give a shit. I'm gonna give them
exactly.
a show. Like I don't care. Like I just, I feel like at this point, the people who have wanted me to fail or wished failure on me, I'm sorry that you're not getting what you want. And I'm just gonna go live my life. Good luck
to you.
Right. Hey, I mean, whatever bad you're wishing on me, you're just making me greater. So
yeah. That is the way I think.
Like literally, you're just making me greater. So how's that amazing for you? How's that working out for you?
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time out today to talk to me some extremely important topics that I think that needed to be put out there. So I really appreciate you taking that time.
Oh, thank you for having me. I love working with you. We got to do some live readings again soon.
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah. Awesome. I actually popped on YouTube yesterday and saw Eric doing a live daily reading. And I was just like, oh, man, I got to get him. We got to get back together.
Like, that was so much fun. That was fun.
Yeah. And do it when since I'm feeling better now and I'm not, I can actually like read.
Yeah. We got to do it again for sure.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
You are welcome.
And, man, go give that husband of yours a hug. I
hug and love on him every day because this man has been my savior. He's been my savior and my rock. And God, I just say it all the time. He's just a patient ass man. Like, he's a patient man. And so I wouldn't be a lot of me without him, because I realize I've been with him for more than half my life. Mm-hmm. So I owe a lot of who I am to who he is, and vice versa. We both talk about it all the time,
That's so cool.
We helped each other grow up, and now we've, got a whole bunch of awesome kids.
And now you guys just get to like relax in the love and
and
not stress no more.
Yeah. I'm living for this phase right now.
Yeah. Good.
I'm very much looking forward to this next phase.
You deserve it. You deserve it. You both do so much. So I love you, girl.
I love you too. Thank you so much, Betsy.
We'll talk soon.
All right. Take care. Love you. Bye.